All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on something you've probably never even thought about when you fly. We're talking about aircraft leasing. It's this hidden multi-billion-dollar world of high-stakes finance and incredibly complex engineering. A whole invisible network of companies that really is what keeps the entire world flying. And it all starts with one simple question.
So, picture this. You're getting settled in your seat, buckling up for takeoff. Have you ever stopped to wonder who actually owns this massive multi-million-dollar machine you're sitting in? Is it the airline, the one with the logo painted on the tail, or maybe the company that built it, like Boeing or Airbus?
Well, the answer's probably going to surprise you, because more often than not, the airline is basically just the tenant. The real owner is a super sophisticated financial firm called an aircraft leaser, a company you've likely never heard of. And this is the invisible network that underpins almost all of modern air travel.
Okay, so to really get how this all works, we've got to start at the very foundation of this whole ecosystem. And that's the core partnership, the relationship between the owner and the operator. It sounds simple, right? But this distinction is absolutely crucial. On one side, you have the lessor. That's the legal owner who's providing the plane. And on the other, you have the lessee. That's your airline. They're the ones making payments to use, operate, and, critically, maintain that plane to incredibly strict standards. And let me tell you, this isn't like renting a car. No way. This is a complex, long-term partnership built on some very, very specific obligations.
Yeah, this quote just nails it. These lessors aren't just passive landlords sitting back and collecting rent checks. They are deeply, deeply involved. They have huge teams constantly crunching the numbers, deciding if it makes more sense to keep leasing a plane out or sell it for a quick profit. We're talking about major league technical, legal, and financial expertise, all focused on managing these incredibly valuable flying assets.
And the scale here, it's just immense. I mean, look at this. This chart shows the data for 2024, and you can see how concentrated the market is. Just 5 companies, we're talking giants like AerCap, Air Lease Corporation, and Avalon. They control a huge slice of the entire global leased fleet. These are their planes crisscrossing the planet every single day.
So this all brings up a pretty obvious question, right? A single modern jet can cost hundreds of millions of dollars. How in the world do these companies afford to buy not just one, but entire fleets of them? Well, to answer that, we have to dive into the world of high-stakes finance.
Sure, they might use some of their own cash, but more often, it's a whole cocktail of sophisticated financial tools. You've got secured debt, where the plane itself is the collateral, and unsecured debt, which is based more on their reputation. But then you get into some really specialized stuff, like government-backed loans, ETCs, and something called asset-backed securities, or ABS.
Let's just break one of those down, because it's actually pretty clever. With asset-backed securities, a lessor basically takes a bunch of their aircraft, bundles up all the future rent payments they're expecting to get from them, and then sells that whole package off to investors. It's a genius way to get a big pile of cash right now, so they can turn around and, well, buy even more planes.
But owning the plane and figuring out how to pay for it, that's really only half the story. To protect these billion-dollar assets while they're flying all over the world, there's a whole other layer of specialists that forms a kind of technical bridge between the owner and the airline.
First up, you've got the MROs. That stands for Maintenance, Repair, and Overhaul Organizations. Think of these as the massive high-tech workshops where all the heavy-duty hands-on work gets done. They're the ones doing the major inspections and engine overhauls that an airline is required to perform under the lease. Next up, the CAMO, the Continuing Airworthiness Management Organization. Now think of them as the meticulous, neutral record keepers. Their entire job is to track every single part, every repair, every inspection, making sure there's a flawless paper trail for the aircraft's entire life. And this is absolutely critical for protecting the plane's value.
And finally, you've got aircraft and asset managers. These are the technical consultants who act as the lessor's eyes and ears on the ground. They're the experts who pop in for inspections, who represent the owner's interest when the plane is in the shop for major work, and yeah, if things go really south, they're the ones who handle the messy business of repossessing an aircraft.
So you can see how it all fits together, right? It's a whole system of checks and balances. The lessor owns the plane and manages the risk. The airline, or lessee, flies it and does the maintenance. The MRO gets their hands dirty doing the actual work, while the CAMO and asset manager make sure all the records are perfect. Each player has their own critical role, and the whole system only works because they all rely on each other.
But here's where things get really interesting.
This neat and tidy ecosystem we've just laid out, well, it's not static. In fact, right now we're seeing a fascinating shift where these traditional roles are starting to blur, and that's creating some really new and powerful dynamics in the industry.
This quote right here just perfectly captures what's happening. The old way of doing things was transactional. A manufacturer would sell a plane or an engine and pretty much walk away. Not anymore. Now it's all about becoming a long-term service partner throughout that asset's entire life.
A fantastic example of this is Rolls-Royce's Power by the Hour program. It's brilliant, really. Instead of an airline getting hit with an unpredictable and potentially massive engine repair bill, they just pay Rolls-Royce a fixed rate for every single hour the engine is running. This shifts all that financial risk of a major failure off the airline and onto the manufacturer. For the airline, it means their costs are nice and predictable. That's a huge deal.
And this whole shift towards services is fueling a major trend called vertical integration. In simple terms, this just means that the big players, from manufacturers like Boeing to the largest lessors, are starting to bring all those essential technical services like maintenance and record keeping in-house.
And why are they doing this? Well, it all comes down to one word: control. By managing everything themselves, they get greater control over quality, they can speed up the process of moving a plane from one airline to another, and ultimately, they can do a better job of protecting the long-term value of their assets. It's a strategic power move to cut down on risk and squeeze out more profit.
So let's zoom back out for a second. We've seen the owners, the operators, the financiers, and all the technical experts. Why does this complex, interconnected network matter so much? What's the big deal?
Well, here's the crucial takeaway. This invisible ecosystem is the real engine of the modern aviation industry. It's what gives airlines the flexibility to grow their fleet or shrink it down without having to spend billions of dollars they don't have. It's what ensures these incredibly valuable assets are maintained to the absolute highest standards. And at the end of the day, it's what keeps the entire global fleet flying safely and efficiently.
And that leaves us with a fascinating question to think about for the future. As planes become essentially flying data centers, generating terabytes of information on every single flight about everything from engine health to component wear, who is going to control all that data? Who will hold the real power in this network tomorrow? Will it be the owner, the operator, or the manufacturer who knows how to read the data?
Something to chew on, for sure. Hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive and want more professional insights into the aviation world, make sure you subscribe to the Aeropoda YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, you can always get in touch with us at info@aeropoda.com. Thanks for watching.